Hello, and welcome to the final video in our 4-part series on the new Mission Control component for Security Center. In this video series, we'll take an in-depth look at what Mission Control can do, how to install and configure the software, different configuration options we can use for incidents, and how operators would be using Mission Control for monitoring and reporting. In the previous videos, we took a look at what Mission Control is from a high-level concept perspective, saw some examples showing how Mission Control can be used, went through the installation and configuration process, then looked at some advanced incident setup using triggers and workflows. In this video, we'll see how an operator can use Mission Control, all the options available, and how an administrator can get more information from the incident reporting task. Incident monitoring in Mission Control. So let's start out by taking a look at the incident monitoring task, which we've already got started on our screen here. We've got 3 major components for the task. On top we have our list of incidents. Below we have our map, which is using Plan Manager. And on the right side we have our dashboard, which contains any information about the particular incident. At the moment I don't have any incidents selected, but if I did, I would be able to see all the information that I would need from here. If I wanted to change the map that I'm looking at, I can do that from up top here with the drop-down list, where it'll give you my area view, and I can select any of the maps that I already have created. Navigation is the same as regular Plan Manager, where I can pan around and zoom in or zoom out to see the various objects and entities on the map. I can also pull up another map using our search button from up here, which will search for any incidents and entities. So if I want to search for one of the other terminal maps, I can type that in here, and then under the entities, I can see I've got my 3 maps that I just brought up previously, and if I click on one, it's going to bring it up in the Maps section below. Next to our Maps list on the top right, we have our Settings button, and this is where we configure how Mission Control is displayed, especially if we have a multi-monitor setup. So using the checkboxes here, we can either choose to show the list and the map on the left, choose to show the list only, or we can choose to show the map only. We can also say whether we want to show the dashboard or not, which is good in a multi-monitor environment where we can isolate each component of Mission Control and put it on its own monitor. Showing both the list and the map, and bringing the dashboard back, we can actually change the position of the list as well. So typically we would have it either on the top, or we could put it on the bottom as well. And this gives us all our nice list details here, showing us everything we need to know for the incident. But we could also put it on the left or the right, which gives us more of an abridged view of the incidents, but we can still choose them from there, and we can change the width of the actual list using the 4 dots here. Of course, using the list, we can select any incident we want, and it will highlight it on the map, and change the map to focus on the incident that we have selected. I'm going to bring my list back up to the top here. And if we need to, we can actually change the columns. We can change the column width if we want. And if we right click on it, we can actually choose to select columns, and we can add other available columns, or we could remove some if we're not using them. We can also click on top of the column itself on the column header, and this way we can actually sort based on whatever information we have in there. Taking a look back in our settings here, we do also have our layers, which is very similar to Plan Manager, and we can choose to show or hide any of these available features from the map itself. So for example, if it's important to know that there's a camera there, but we don't necessarily need to see the field of view, we can uncheck that, and that will remove the field of view from the map. Going back up to the settings here, We do have options here as well for the incident options. The first one on top here is the minimum priority in the notification tray. So if we do have a new incident that comes in, it will pop up in the notification tray up here. If an operator's primary purpose is not monitoring incidents, but they do need to know if a high or critical incident comes in, they could change this to the minimum priority to be to a high priority incident here. I showed you an example just now of what the synchronized incident monitoring task actually does, where when I clicked on the incident, it brought it up in the map as well. So by default this is on, and it should usually be kept on, especially if you're using a multi-monitor environment. Show all incidents on the default map uses georeferencing coordinates to put the incident on the actual map where it actually happens. If you're not using georeferencing, or if you have this turned off, it's going to put the incident pin or indicator on the actual object or area that's on the actual map. The next section below is when opening an incident in monitoring, meaning the monitoring task. So we can actually double click on an incident and that will bring it up in the monitoring task, which we'll look at in just a second. The first option, append map to incident content, will bring Plan Manager up in a tile and focus on the incident, which means it's going to put it in the center of the tile. Automatically change the incident state means it's going to put the incident in progress if we double click on it and bring it up in the monitoring task. Within the incident monitoring task, we can click on various incidents and it's going to change the monitored by field to include us, but it's not going to actually change the state of the incident itself unless we do that ourselves manually. We'll see this in a second as well, but when it brings up the monitoring task, it actually brings up a separate one for the incident itself, and it brings it up without the area view. Because we're trying to focus directly on this incident itself, we may not need all the regular objects and entities that we have in the area view. If we do have a multi-monitor environment, we can choose which screen we want the monitoring task to come up on. This can be a handy way of organizing your work. If you need to know the monitor IDs, you can turn on the monitor number in the notification tray. So in this case, I can see that my monitor is number 67, so I could actually turn this on and put use screen ID 67 if I have 3 other screens, but I always want my monitoring task to come up in the one that I'm looking at right now. Export settings are for exporting incidents. Exporting current map view will include a snapshot in a JPEG format of the current map view into the incident export folder. If we have associated cameras with a particular incident and we do an export and we have export event snapshots turned on here, then it's going to take a snapshot from each one of the cameras we have associated with it, and it's going to include that as well, and it's going to do it from the timestamp of the actual event. The export related videos is similar. So if we have cameras that are attached as related entities, it will actually export the video associated with the event, and we can adjust the date and the time and the duration of each video sequence. If we want everything to be stored in a zip file, we could actually put compress output, and then we would see that in our vault. And if we do have this option selected, we can also choose to delete the intermediary files as well. So the additional export format here, if we have it set to none, it's just going to export an XML document for us. This can be used to retrieve any data from the actual incident, but we can choose to also release it in PDF or HTML format. So it will be one or the other, and that's on top of the XML document that's being exported. Below that we have our video playback offset and the duration here as well. Okay, so of course the whole point of this is to be managing incidents. So how do incidents show up? Incidents can be created manually, or they can be created automatically using a series of triggers that we saw in a previous video talking about the rules engine. If each one of the rules is satisfied, then it will create the incident automatically on the map. If an entity is specified, it will put that location on the entity, or on a particular point we choose on the map. So let's say, for instance, all the conditions were met for the abandoned item incident. It would be triggered and we would see it show up in the list here. We can see the location is the secure area. So if we go over to our map and we drag over to our secure area, we can see that we have our abandoned item incident created here. Note that the modified by field and the owner field are both blank. Modified by means somebody is actually looking at it, and the owner is the person that is actually taking responsibility for the incident. We can see from the other information that it's a high priority incident, and it's in the new state right now. Since we do have a new incident, we can see in our notification tray that our mission control icon showed up, and we have one new incident listed there. If we wanted to trigger an incident manually on the map, so let's say there's a problem down here by the bathrooms, there are several ways that I can do this. The easiest is just to right click on the map where you want to actually put the incident and do trigger incident from here. It's going to bring up our incident type list, including our categories, so we can expand the categories to see our different incidents. Then we can choose one, add any comments if we need to, and hit trigger from here. Let's cancel that and I'll show you a second way, which is right up top here. We have a trigger incident button. So using this method, of course, we have our categories again. We can choose firearm incident, and for the location we're actually choosing an object to associate this incident with. So in this case, I'm going to associate it with my secure entrance door, and I can trigger it from there. And then we see it show up on the map here. The third way is to actually right-click on the object. So I have a camera right here, which if I go back up and go into my layers, I want to see my fields of view again, hit OK, and I can see it's viewing that area, and I can actually right-click on here and do trigger incident. And this time I'm actually going to choose camera offline and do trigger. You can see it automatically picks it as the location, and then we get a new incident right there. Now, one thing to point out, you may be looking at my list here and seeing that it's lighting up like a Christmas tree. Well, basically the workflow that I've got defined for these different incidents includes things like changing the column color. So this is a good way of letting the operators know exactly what's going on. So the really critical things will really stand out and they can jump right on them, such as the firearm incident or the bomb threat. And something like a camera online might be important, but not as important as the other two. So we're only giving it like an orange color here. And if we actually click on it, you can see the orange is still there, and it changes the text to that. So it's still noticeable and you can still see the color from there. Now, I touched on the search button before, but I want to go back to that for a second because it is very powerful, and if you've got a very large system, which is what you typically would have for a mission control environment, you're going to have a lot of incidents more than likely, and a lot of people looking at them. There might be a lot showing up on a very large map too. So being able to search and filter down to see exactly what you want to see is very important. So if somebody comes along and says, oh, well, I want to see that one particular forced entry incident that we've got going, you can go up to the search here. And I mentioned before, I can search for an entity from here, but I can also search for an active incident. So if I do forced, then I've got my forced entry right there. So that's the actual incident that's running right now. And if I click on it, it's going to select it for me. Now, of course, my list is kind of small. I can see it right there, but in a larger environment, that would be you would see more of them perhaps, and you'd be able to see exactly which one, what time it was triggered at, and that would be a lot quicker for you. Okay, so I'm going to clear that search, and let's talk about the list filter right here. So if we click on it, we can see that we've got a bunch of different things that we can view. We can see all incidents, we can see my incidents. So if I turn that on and I apply that, then it's only showing the ones that I'm the actual owner of. And I can see incidents dispatched to a particular person as well. So I'm going to go back to all my incidents, just apply that. And pretty much all the information that you'd want to filter out on or in your list is included in here. So the type, which is our list of incidents that we've created on the system, again, it's sorted by category, so it makes everything easier to find. So if I wanted my forced entry here, the state, I could choose to only see the new incidents if I wanted to. The location is usually where we'd pick a map or an object that we have on the map. Of course, the priority. So during your incident investigation, you could change the priority, or it could be changed using one of the workflows. And this way you could filter it out to see, okay, maybe somebody took this incident and it started off as critical, and now they've worked with it and it's not so bad anymore, so they knocked it down to a high or a medium priority. So maybe you don't want to see those because you know they're not in such a bad state, and you could want to limit it to the critical priority here. And of course the trigger time, where you can give a range from and to, which is just like how we're usually searching for video and things like that. So you can apply that and it'll limit your list for you. If you need to add more, you can see that we've got plus signs here. For my type, let's say I want forced entry. And I also want to see any lost child incidents. I can put that there as well. And there's a handy button next to it just to clear that out too. Now you can see there's a bunch of different options there, so it's nice that you can set something up this powerful in terms of a filtering engine. But of course you don't want to keep going back and having to do that over and over, so we can actually save those as templates. So I can save the template, I can say save as, and I can call it forced and lost. I can make it public so that other people can use it too if I want to, and I'll save that. And then it gives it the name here, and I could apply that, and it limits my list down. And then what I can do, I can go back into my filter here, and I can clear this out. And under the template, I can either choose the one that I created, I can save another one, or I can manage the templates as well. So if I want to remove that one, or if I want to edit it, I can do that from here. So that's filtering. That's a good way of keeping things more organized. If you have a bunch of different operators and they're all doing different things, you could have different templates set up for them, and that way they're not looking at too much information, which is kind of the whole goal of mission control to start with. One last thing I want to point out with the filtering is if we do have a couple of things set up, so we put the abandoned item in progress and we apply this, we're going to see a number next to the filter, and that tells us how many actual conditions we have filtered on. So in this case we've got it on type and state. If I also added a location and I applied that, we'd see that would go up to 3, and of course when we clear it, it goes back to nothing. That way, if you want to see everything and you're not really sure, you can just take a look up at the filter and you'll know if you do have anything applied to it at the moment. Okay, so let's take a look at the dashboard now. I'm going to select an incident. I'm going to choose my firearm incident here. And let's take a look at the different sections in the dashboard. So let's take a look on top here. And the very first thing we have is our overview information. So this is the basic things like the state, the owner, if anybody's monitoring it, the location it's associated to, and of course the priority. And we can modify some of this information just by clicking on the edit button right here. And then we could change the description if something wasn't entered properly, or we do get more information. And we can associate an external ID. For example, if we have a case management system, we could put the case ID in here too. And of course we can change the priority. So in this case, I made an incident type called firearm incident, and if it's not an active shooter, if it could just be something like a gun found in a piece of luggage or something like that, then maybe we don't need that at critical priority and we can drop that. I'm going to drop that down to high, and then I'm going to save that. And then we actually see here that the priority was dropped. So we get that icon here, and we do see it in the list too. Now anywhere that we have this chevron here, that's where we can actually expand this section. And then we can see, in this case it doesn't give us much more information, but we'll see later on that in certain things it will give you a lot more to work with here. And as I just showed, if you just click on the chevron pointing the other way, pointing to left, it's collapse. So that's a very easy way to get around. The procedure here, of course, is the steps that we want the operators to take, or for an operator that we should be going through. If we have a document here, it'll show up. We can view the document right from here. Now we can attach any kind of document to this that we want, but we need to make sure that the people who are actually looking at it have the appropriate software to open it. So I could put a PDF in there and that could be open, or I could even put something like an Excel file, but I need to make sure that my operators actually have Excel to be able to open that particular document. So there's no limitations on the documents themselves, but you do need to bear in mind that the person on the other end needs to have the appropriate software for it. We could have it set up that we can skip this step if we want to. We could also choose not to do steps in order. That's configured in the incident type itself. And of course, if somebody wants to just focus on the procedure, and if there's a lot of steps here, we can expand this, and when we just have our whole list and we can do everything we need to. Just collapse that. In the section below, we have our latest activity. So this is really important because this keeps track of everything that's being done on the actual incident. So we can see that where it was triggered, that I triggered it here, where I started monitoring it, where I took ownership of it, and of course where I changed the priority and what I changed it to. So from an administrator or a supervisor perspective, this is great to see because we can actually go down here and I can see, okay, the incident was triggered at 6:22, and then the monitoring started at 6:33, and finally ownership was taken at 6:35. So you can see the responsiveness of your team and basically get a good idea of all the steps that were taken and how long it took to resolve an incident. Clicking on add a comment here, we can actually put in another activity if we wanted, such as entire team stepped out for coffee. And we can include that in there, and then we'll see that I made that comment in here. We can edit it, or we can delete it as well. So this is something, if somebody's just monitoring people monitoring the incidents, they could put notes in like that. And of course we can expand it so we can see the full list as well instead of having to scroll around. Going down to related incidents, let's expand this. And we've got a lot more information here. The main part here is our linked incidents. So we're going to see an example of this in just a few minutes. But basically we can have incidents that relate to each other. So let's say we have a piece of luggage that's left in the airport, and we send a team out to investigate it, and it turns out there's an explosive device in it. Well, it's not an abandoned luggage anymore. It's turning into a bomb threat. But of course we wanted to see what led up to the actual triggering of the bomb threat incident itself. So from the bomb threat we could actually link that abandoned item incident in here, and that way when someone goes back to review the incident, they can see the complete scenario and all the information and all the timestamps and everything they need to really determine what happened and what can be done to improve the response in the future. Up top here we have our related incidents. So we have our time frame, so within the last hour, day, week, or month. And if we had any incidents at the same source or any similar kinds of incidents, we could see those show up here. So if I choose day, I still have nothing because I've got a fairly new system here. But you would see the incidents show up, and you could actually select them and take a look at the information from there too. So I'm just going to collapse my related incidents here. And let's go down to related entities. So of course our source entities, we know that we created this incident, we triggered it on that secure entrance door, so that shows up in the source entities, but we could actually attach entities too. So looking at our map, we know that this door is actually being seen by the secure area and BC Gates camera. So I could click on it here, add an item, and I could go down and select that camera and add this to the list as well. So that way anybody looking into the investigation later on can actually see any additional entities that it may have important information for us. Related documents down here. These are any general documents that might be important to any incident that we're investigating right now. Of course, when we create our document, we can say that we want it limited to a certain schedule, or we only want it available for certain types of incidents. And this is where it shows up in the related documents. If we use that tag that we set up for a document in a particular step, that's where we see it show up in the SOP or the standard operating procedure. So same as the procedure section, we have the icon here and we can open whichever document we want from here if we have the software available to view the particular document or file. On the bottom here we have our handy state change button. So basically it will sort of lead you through a progression of state changes. So if it's a new incident, you can put it in progress. Once we've gone through the procedure steps, we can go down here and we can solve it. Once we've solved it, we can close it. But of course we can create our own custom states and we can have those used as well. The easiest way to do this is by clicking on the three dots, the options button next to the state button here. And we can do change state to. So of course our standard one's new, parked, closed. Parked is if we want to put something on hold. We could use a custom one that I created for supervisor pending. And from those options we can also do things like release ownership. So I'm the owner of this incident right now, and I'm looking into whatever's going on, but something else happens and I need to be pulled away for that. It's a very critical thing, but maybe somebody else can take a look into this while I'm gone. So I can release ownership, somebody else can take ownership of it after that. As you can see from my list, you can be an owner of multiple different incidents. So that's not a problem, but this is good for actually showing on the incident list that I'm not actually owning that, I'm not looking into that incident anymore, and somebody else can take over for you. View in tile is just like if I double-clicked on the incident and brought it up in the monitoring task. We can export instance from here, and we can also view the event details. So if you have any events coming in from Security Center that are affecting the incident, or if you're waiting for an event and then you aggregate that event, you can actually see those details, those events show up from here as well. Now I pointed this out from the three dots down here, but if we want to, I've got my, my incident marker on the map. I can right click on the incident marker and I can do the same thing. So I can do things like change the state and view the event details from here. And of course from the incident list, I can do the same thing. So there's lots of different ways that you can actually manage an incident from here, and if you're more familiar or more comfortable with one, you can do it that way, you can do it another way. It's not limiting you so much there. Now on the bottom here we have the General tab. So in this particular case I have my door as an attached entity and I have that selected. So I can use my door widget to do different things like I normally would from the monitoring task, such as unlocking the door or overriding the unlock schedule. If I click on a camera and I go to my General tab here, I can see that I've now got the camera widget too, so I can use my camera controls just like I was in the monitoring task as well. Now remember, I added that camera as a related entity, so now when I click on the incident, I'm actually getting the camera window popping up. That camera is not recording, so at the incident time I don't actually have any video from that camera, but if you did, it would show up in here and give you a time range around the incident here. Also concerning the related incidents, I showed how we could link an incident to another one. We can actually do that from our list here too. So if I click on my lost child and I click on my abandoned item, I'm holding the control so I have both of them selected, I can right click and I can actually link the incidents from here. So that's another very easy way of connecting incidents together. Let's go back to our firearm incident here. So let's say I did want to manage more video for this particular incident, and I want to open it up in the monitoring task. I can just double click on the incident from here, and then that brings it up in the monitoring task. You can see it opened a new monitoring task. If we go back, we can see that this is incident number 8. So we have a little 8 under the monitoring task to qualify that this is incident number 8. It's showing me my plan manager map. It's focused on the incident. It's got the door that was involved in the incident here. This is the same recorded video that I showed before that comes up in that little pop-up window, but of course I wasn't recording at the time, but I can switch over and go back to the live video if I need to. And of course, if I think there may be more cameras in the area or I want to see more things, I can go down here and I can show the area view again. And that way I could drag over another camera and show, for instance, the storage room here. And I can see I've got that one recording, so maybe that's the one that I want to add as an attached entity next for this particular incident. And of course, since this is a monitoring task, we have our normal widgets on the side here that we can use. The widgets again are under the General tab, so if we want to go back and do anything with the incident, we just click on the Incident tab, and then we're back and we can do more procedures and things like that from here. Again, I double-clicked on the actual pin for the incident to do that. I can double-click on it in the list. That will bring that up as well. And I can view in tile from that the 3 dots here, or from right-clicking on the incident too. So those are all ways that you can bring up the monitoring task for a particular incident. The last way we can actually do that is looking back up here at our notification icon. We do have new incidents in there. So these are our 2 new incidents that have not been handled so far. So I can click on that, it's going to select it, and I can choose to view on map, which is going to view it in the incident monitoring task, or I can view in tile, which is going to open it in the monitoring task. Now I mentioned the ownership here and the monitoring as well. So one thing to note is if I do click on an incident and I change it to in progress, that does put me as the owner of the particular incident. As I mentioned, I can be multiple owners. Looks like I've got my hands full here. So I could release the ownership from here. But in a normal workflow, I would take ownership of an incident and then start working my way through the standard operating procedures. And of course, some of these may be set up to actually prompt for information. So looking at my firearm incident here, I've alerted my security team, and then the next thing I need to do is, based on the call that came in about the firearm, I need to give a description of the suspect if I have one. Hit OK. And then we would just continue on. If we needed to, and I do have the option, I could skip this step. But when skipping a step, you need to give a reason why you're skipping it too. So this is just another layer of accountability here. So why am I skipping this step? It's telling me to call the police and give them the location and description of the suspect. Well, it's because the police were already on site and caught the suspect. Good job. And that allows us to continue with our workflow from here. Suspect is still in the area. Yes. And then our last step is to assist our security team in the evacuation of the area if needed, which I'm going to skip that step too. No evacuation needed. Suspect in custody. So we can see that all of our procedures here have either been checked or they've been skipped. If we take a look at our activity, we see all the reasons why we skipped it or any information that we entered, so such as the description of the suspect, the red coat, blue pants here. If we need to go back and modify any of that, we can click on the edit button. But at this point, we can pretty much say that this incident is solved. We can click on that. We may have conditions in our workflow that do different things if something goes into a solved state. And then finally, once we're done with it and we don't need to see any of these details in the incident monitoring task, we can close the incident. And then we go back to our generic no incident selected. We see our active incidents on top. And then we can choose the next one we want to take control of and handle. Alright, so I've cleaned up my incident monitoring task a little bit here, and I want to show you a couple of examples of just a regular kind of flow of creating an incident and managing it from within Mission Control and what you can expect to see from there. And we're also going to take a look at it from a supervisor perspective. We're going to take a look at a third example that really emphasizes the situational awareness you get from using Mission Control. So the first thing I want to do is a bomb threat. Now, as I mentioned from a previous video, what we usually have at a security operations center is a bank of phones that are connected to the outside world somehow. So you've got your security operators and they're sitting there and they're waiting for calls, or that's part of their job as part of other duties as well. And you may have either customer service desks at an airport or emergency telephones you'd have in an elevator, or you'd have them in selected locations around the site. And that way, if the public sees anything suspicious, they could actually call it in and call it right to the security team, and then they could react based on that and get more information from the person who's actually on the phone and put that right into the incident at the moment. So if in our first example, we've got somebody who's moving boxes into the evidence locker here, and they notice something suspicious in one of the boxes. So this could be an employee, and they have a walkie-talkie to connect right to the security team, and they're going to call that in. Myself as a security operator, I get the employee on the phone, and I know where they are on the map, so I'm going to right-click on it, and I'm going to do Trigger Incident. Since I was hovering over this object, the evidence room zone, it's going to use that as my location. That's fine with me. And this is something that affects the facilities. It's not something that affects the, it's not a public incident. Public incident example that would be something like a firearm incident, like a shooting, a lost child, or if we spot a suspect. So looking under facilities, this is actually a bomb threat here. So I'm going to put that here, and I'm going to put an additional comment that this was called in by employee Robert Smith. And I'm going to trigger that incident. So that shows up on my list here. And the incident marker shows up on the map. I can hover over it to see the information. And we can see it's at a critical priority. And we can see our workflow effects here too. So the first thing I did in the workflow is we turned the columns red. So that makes it stand out very well in my view. I can see the location from here. And the other thing, if we noticed it, that popped up is it unlocked all the doors. So if there was anyone in the area, they would be able to get out of the area and it would continue from there. And that would save us an extra step of having to go through and unlock the doors for people or trigger that as some other kind of alarm or things like that. Let's click on the incident. This means we're monitoring it. We can see we've got it highlighted, but things are still in red here. But of course, monitoring means I'm just looking at this. I'm not actually taking ownership. Once again, when I create it, we can see that comment, so I know who called it in if I need to follow up with more information. And I'm going to go up here, right click, and I'm going to take ownership. So at this point, I want to jump on top of this and I want to get into my, my procedures here. So the first thing I've got to do is advise all the security teams that we do have a bomb threat. So I can check that. And the other thing I have here is I can actually view a document. And this document is actually a list of all the security team members, which I do have in my related documents too. So when I added that all security team members, one of the incident types that I included in there was the bomb threat type. So I know I always want that to show up in my related documents. And I want to put this pretty convenient right here to be able to view the document while I'm doing this step to advise all the security teams. So there's lots of ways of putting that information in there. We want to make it nice and easy for the operators to get the info they need to actually complete that step. Of course, next we want to begin the evacuation of the area. And then we call the police. And we give the location of the bomb threat and the description details. The police relay us to the bomb squad, and the bomb squad could give us an ETA and say we're going to be there in 5 minutes. So let's say I could put the time, or I could just put 5 minutes, because when I do OK on this step, we can see it shows up in the activity, and I can see that at 7:11 I typed that, so I know that they do have an ETA of 7:16. So we can see later on when the bomb squad got there, we could actually see, okay, is their ETA on target, or were they early, were they late, and that's good for bookkeeping as well. So our next step here, let's say that we have a team of people that are working with incidents and talking to the public and manning the phones, but we also have a team that's looking at the cameras, and they're our video team. So we could tell the video team, hey, take a look at the camera in that location, take a look in the area, the cameras in the area, and see if you can find who actually dropped that box that we were transporting, and see if we can locate the actual suspect here. So we can advise them, and the video team could get back to us and say, oh, hey, we found the guy. This is what he looks like. So I'm going to check that suspect description from the video team. At this time, I'm really going to mix it up. And he's got a blue coat and red pants. And we're going to hit OK. And they could additionally tell us, oh, well, you know what? We saw him on the this camera here, the storage room camera. So I could go down at this point and go into my related entities, and I could add that storage room camera. And now if I need to go back and see that video from the actual incident, or go outside of the incident and take a look for that actual person that they saw, I could see that there. So they tell me the camera. I've already checked that option and put the description, but they tell me, okay, it's this guy on this camera, and he dropped it off at 6:30. So I clicked on my edit button, and I can add more information here. I'm going to say that it's the storage room camera. Look at timestamp 6:30 p.m. So really, we're really gathering a lot of good information in here, and it's right here at our fingertips too. So I got that information from the video team, and my next step in my procedure list is to advise the police and all of our security team members of the suspect description. So I get on the walkie-talkie system internally, and I tell the security team members what the guy looks like. I can call my contact with the police and tell them who to look for as well. I've done that. I'm going to check that. And again, as well, I've attached that document so I can get the numbers of the security team if I need to. Now, at this point, what's happening with the incident is the police are on site. The bomb squad has showed up. They're taking a look at the box, and they need to figure out, is this an actual threat? Is this a problem? Do we need to defuse anything? And from our standpoint, we've evacuated the area. We've got the doors open. Everybody's getting out. All the information that we need to distribute has been sent out there, and everybody knows what's going on. So we could actually, one thing we could do is we could park this because there's nothing more for us to do at this point. So I could change the state to parked. I could put a time if I wanted to say how long to hold it for. So let's say 5 minutes. And that way we know after 5 minutes, maybe we should check in with the bomb team and see if, or the bomb squad, and see how they're doing and if there's anything that needs to be done from our end. And what may happen is the bomb squad takes a look at it and they say, no, this is a children's toy or something. And they give us the all clear. They say there's no problem. People can go about their business. We're going to remove this. So the incident is not a problem at this point. So that's our next step in the procedure, is we want to change the status to all clear once the police have determined the area is safe. So I'm going to do that. And if you notice, our text turned green here. I'm just going to step off of the incident to show you that the bar's changed here too. So it's green. It's dropped it to a medium priority. We can see by the arrow here, because we know the bomb isn't a threat anymore, but there may be a few things that we still need to do. So the bomb squad may still be on site. They want to get rid of it. We want to make sure we have the security team available to them for anything they need to escort them through any doors or out the building or anything like that. So again, these changes were part of my workflow. So we can see how that's very helpful for us, and that we didn't have to go in here and actually change the priority to medium ourselves. And it's visibly easier for us because it changed the columns to green. And so we're going to go down and we're going to mark that step as complete. And the last thing we want to do is, let's say for this bomb threat, we got the description of the guy that dropped that box off. So maybe we still want to pull him in for questioning just to see, okay, was this mischief? Was this a legitimate mistake? We still want to talk to the guy, right? The last thing we want to do is, I want to note this incident number just to, in case we need to link this to another incident later on. So I can see up top here, it's incident number 10. I'm going to write that down, and that way if we get any suspect cited incidents coming in from our security team, we can immediately say, okay, link this to incident 10 because it's related to our bomb threat that we had earlier. So I'm going to mark that as complete. And we see that in the activity, we've got everything done here. At this point, it is in a solved state because we've got everything checked off and everything's done. So the last thing I can do is close it. Are you sure you want to close it? Yes, I do. And that gets rid of it from the list. Now at some point, if during the incident somebody had called in and said, no, you know what, I was completely mistaken, that's a toy in there, we don't need this bomb threat anymore, you could actually change the state right to closed if you need to, and it will come up and ask you, do you want to just close it or do you want to validate all the steps? So if you want to say all the steps have been done, we took care of it on site, it's all been done, so just get rid of it but mark everything as done, you can do that too. So let's take a look at a second example, and this is where we get forced entry on a door. So basically what happened is we had a set of rules set up for this actual incident where we might get an access denied or something like that, and then a door forced open event on a particular door. So we wanted to create an incident to say that this door was forced open and there might be somebody in there that we don't want in there. So that happened for this particular door, and we got our forced entry incident that was created automatically. So I'm going to go up and I'm going to take a look at it. And I'm going to say, yes, I need to investigate this. So I'm going to click down here and put that in progress, which puts me as the owner here. And again, I can go through my procedure. So the first thing I'm going to do is alert the security team. And I'm going to get them on site to take a look at it. And of course, we don't need everybody to run to this door. So I'm going to include the names of the responders. I can actually put 2 here in case 2 people wanted to respond to it. And we'll hit OK. We've got those listed in our activity. And of course, an important thing here is, did the suspect pass through the door? So I'm going to click on this, and what we could do is take a look at the video and just see, if the person who actually forced the door open, did an alarm go off? Did they suddenly panic and realize this is not where they were supposed to be and they ran away? Or did they actually pass through and we know that they're in this secure area that they're not supposed to be? Now, of course, I have my 2 responders that I noted here. So let's say, for instance, at this point, I've dispatched people, I see this, and I get called away. I suddenly have to run away from my desk for some reason, or have to jump on a different incident. I could release the ownership, one of my coworkers could jump in, and the next step is advise responders of suspect location. And they would be able to look down in the latest activities, and they know exactly who they need to call, and let them know the information that I included, that they are in the secure area. So the person would be advised, and that's pretty much it. We're good to go. Again, we've got our related documents. Now remember the bomb threat incident that we were looking at, we had that 3rd document listing the entire security team and their phone numbers. I didn't actually include the forced entry incident in the list of incidents that are eligible for that document, so that doesn't show up here. But I do have other useful information like my Team A and Team B security personnel. So Team A and Team B could be assigned to Terminal 3, and that's more relevant than having the list of everybody that's on the security teams for each of the separate terminals. Whereas the bomb threat affects the whole airport, and that is something where you would want to alert all the security teams and not just Terminal 3, and really get everything under control in the whole site and the whole environment. So now at this point we can solve this incident if we need to. If I wanted to, I can put a related entity. So the camera that I had pointing at this door that I used to spot the individual going in, I could add that in here. But let's change this up a little bit. Let's look at it from a situational awareness perspective. So we've got our operators, and they're all looking at different incidents, and they're taking calls and looking at the automatically triggered incidents as well. And one of them goes through this, but let's say in our situation, they didn't actually enter the secure area. So we're just going to backtrack a little bit. So they didn't go in and they ran. So I'm going to save that. And I'm not actually going to solve it. I'm going to keep it open because the suspect is still somewhere in the area and this incident really isn't completed. So let's back out on the map a little bit. And let's take a look at what happens next. Now we alerted the security team, and let's say we gave them a description of the suspect that we got from the video camera here. So one of the security team calls in, and they say, hey, I just saw that guy that tried to force the door open. this is where we can put the suspect cited. Now I could put the comment, I could put suspect from forced entry, and that shows up here. And then a couple of minutes later we get somebody else calling in, and they see the guy as well, so we get another suspect cited. So we can see that if I'm a supervisor and I'm taking a look at my incident monitoring tasks, or if I have my map up there, I'm going to see this on my map. I can see my forced entry here, and then I can see my suspect cited, and then the second one. And from our perspective, we can actually put this together and say, you know what, there's something going on here. I'm seeing this guy running along. I can dispatch my security teams, and I want to put them somewhere over here, and that looks like where the guy's headed, so we can probably catch our suspect somewhere in this area. So instead of just broadcasting a general alert, like there's a guy in the area, he looks like this, catch him if you can, you've actually got a much better idea of where they can be, and you could actually take your security forces and muster them in around that area and get a much better chance of actually capturing the suspect. So as a supervisor, you're seeing this information, and you can really use it to influence the situation and get a better outcome in the end. And not only that, but when you're done with the incident, of course we've got these additional suspects cited. They're all related to the same thing. So I'm going to select them all, and I'm going to link these incidents. So yes, I want to link them together. I'm going to go back to my forced entry here, and I can see I've got those two additional suspects cited incidents in here. So when I'm going back through and viewing this later, I can see from my activity here how well we responded to this, how quickly we responded, and then from the related incidents, I could switch over and view those as well. So once this actually is completed, I can look at the related activity and see how quickly we responded or maybe didn't respond, and maybe what more we could have done from here, and how we can actually modify our procedure to maybe have caught this after the first suspect cited, or some other way of streamlining the actual procedure like that. So that's just a couple of examples showing you what we can do with mission control in terms of responding to incidents. And again, our third example where we see the suspect cited and we can track him from there. So there's a lot you can see and a lot you can do to be able to know exactly what's going on in your site, in your location, in your particular area. You can do it from a wide perspective. You can narrow it down to see a few things. And it's a lot easier and does a lot more for you than just seeing the basic events coming up. So if I was just sitting in my monitoring task and I had all my entities monitored, I may have seen that door forced event come up, but would I really know that it's a problem? Would I really know how to look for the suspect that forced the door open, and then the actual ability to track him through other incidents that come in? That would have been a lot harder to do. So I think that really shows the power of mission control while we're monitoring live incidents. Incident reporting in mission control. Let's take a look at how administrators can get more information on the incidents, how they were handled, and any changes that were made to the system. We're going to start off by looking at our new investigation task, which is the incident report. Looking at the interface, on the left side we have a list of filters similar to what we have in other Security Center reporting tasks. Of course, this filter list is geared towards incidents, so we have things like the type, the location, and the owner. The right side of the interface is very similar to what we saw in the incident monitoring task. The differences here are in the top bar, where we have the options to export a report or print a report, and we're missing things like trigger an incident, or the options to be able to split this into multiple monitors. We have our map and our dashboard here, as well as our incident list on top, And on the bottom of the dashboard, we have our general and incident tabs in case we need to do any management with any entities that we're viewing as part of the incident investigation. Just like in the incident monitoring task, we can also select a map to use. In this case, we're going to go back to our Airport Terminal 3 and choose the Terminal 3 Departures map. Now if we generate a report that has any incidents from the Terminal 3 departures in it, we'll see them show up on the map. Let's generate a quick report using some of the filters. The type filter is very familiar as we see our categories here and we see our list of incidents. In this report, I only want to see the incidents that happened in the facilities category. We could also filter on a specific state as well, so an administrator or supervisor could use this report to actually see which ones are currently in progress, or research any closed incidents. Now just note that this list is actually generated based on when we click on the Generate Report button on the bottom, so it's not going to be actively updating the ones that are in progress. This would be more if a supervisor wanted to get a quick snapshot of what's currently happening in terms of the incidents on their system. For now, I want to choose all states, so I'm just going to turn off this filter. For the location, of course, I can choose a specific area or a particular entity. So in this case, I'm going to choose my Terminal 3 departures. If I wanted to see anything from my other Terminal 3 maps, I could choose those here as well. Note on the bottom that we do have controls to check all of the items, or uncheck all of them to clear the list. And to make it easier to see, we can actually only show the ones that we have checked. This is a good way of verifying that you have everything selected that you want to before you actually run the report. The priority lists the priorities that we have set up in our system. You can see that we have our custom VIP one that we created when we were working on the role. And of course we can choose the time frame, and this is related to when the incident was triggered, either manually or automatically. So I want to see everything within the last week, so I'm just going to change the drop down here. We have our standard warning here that is basically saying that we might get a lot of results from this. If we wanted to see what a particular user has been doing in mission control, we could set that up in the owner here. So I could limit my results to one specific user or a couple of users. And as well in the description, we could enter any text that we want to search for here. So if an operator doesn't remember the incident ID but does remember that they wrote the word handbag in the description, you could add that here, which would limit your results and make finding the actual incident a lot easier. So let's run the report using the specific location and the trigger time. Now we only came up with one incident here, which was our bomb threat, and that was the one that we triggered on the map. Now bear in mind that this is just searching on the actual area here. So incidents that may have happened on the doors in this area or on the cameras wouldn't be listed because we only have the area listed here. So if I turn off the location and I run the report again, you can see that we have a longer list of items, and they represent things like our forced entry on the door and our camera offline that we had over here. Just like in our incident monitoring task, we can right-click on the incident to get more options, such as the ability to view it in a tile, or we can click on the item up top in the incident list. Since this incident is in progress, if I right-click on it, I do have more options here, like the ability to take ownership and to change the state. If we click on one of our closed incidents, we of course get some of our vital information from the incident list here. But we can also take a look at the dashboard. So we can see who the owner was, what the priority was when it was closed. We have the arrow indicating the priority was lowered. And here we have the location, which we can also see on the map. And below that, we have our list of procedures that were followed. And we can see which ones were checked and which ones were not. And of course we have our activity list. That contains all the information we need to investigate the incident. We still have our chevrons here on the side, so we can jump in and see if there's any related incidents, any linked incidents here as well. and see any related entities, which in this case we have our storage room camera that we've added. If you need to verify any of the information that the operator was looking at while they're investigating the incident, we still have the related documents down here as well that you can use. Based on the filters we have set up, we can export the report from here, or we can actually print it as well. Exporting the report will ask for the file format, and will also ask for the destination. Reports can be exported in the standard Excel, CSV, or PDF format. Choosing CSV or PDF will give us a few extra fields that we can modify, such as the orientation of the exported file. Now let's see, a few other incidents have happened, and I want to see what's happening on this actual door here. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit on it, on the evidence locker door. So I want to see anything that's happened on that door, so I'm going to turn the type off here. I'm going to change the location. I want to uncheck my departures. And since we have nothing checked, it removed the I option and is showing me everything. So I want to see the door, and it's the evidence locker door that's right here. I'm going to select that. And I'm going to generate my report. So we can see we've got 4 incidents that happened on that particular door. We can either select an incident to view from up here, or if we take a look at the door on the map, we can see that we've actually got a little number 4 icon on the actual door itself, on the incidents, and that tells us how many have been applied to this door. If I click on the incident, I actually get a little pop-up list with a brief summary of the incidents that have happened. So if I want to see the forced entry from October 7th, I can click on it, and it's going to bring that one up in the list and select the incident to view in the dashboard as well. That way we can make sure that all the procedures were followed and see what kind of activity is associated with this incident. So that's the incident reporting task, and it can show us our incident history and give our administrators and supervisors more information that we need about particular incidents that happened. And once again, this can be used to streamline your actual security procedures for any training that might be needed for particular operators to see how they responded to an incident, and we can use it to track response times as well. Now I want to jump back over to the config tool for a minute, and I just want to show one other option that is good for administrators to see what has actually been done on the system with regard to your incident types and any changes that might have been done to your incident setup from there. So we're going to go back to our incident configuration task, and on the top there, next to the incident configuration and the document management, we have an audit trails tab. So the filters list here is pretty simple, so we just need to choose the modification time. So if I took a look at this a week ago and I know everything was fine back then, I'd only want to take a look at what's been happening in the last week. If something is weird that we noticed in a particular incident type, we can limit it to that one. So for example, our bomb threat here. And if we want to see what a particular user has been up to, we can change the initiator as well. So if I run this report, I can see all the information I need to know about what has been changed on my bomb threat incident type. In this case, I can see that the initiator was the administrator the whole time, but I can see when the modifications were made, and a description of the modification, which for some circumstances will actually give you a lot of information in the from and the to line here. So in this particular example, we can see that the step list order was changed. And taking a look at the from and to, we can see that the bomb squad ETA step was moved up ahead of the advise video team step. Now, since workflows are very flexible and we're doing a lot of graphical changes in terms of moving things around and changing links between different activities in the workflow, you won't get as many details in the description since there isn't really a way to show those graphical changes that we've made on the actual workflow list. But for any other changes you make in any of the other tabs in the incident type, you will get more information on what field was changed and what it was changed from and to. This is particularly important if you have a large team and you have more than one person or a team of people that are actually going to be modifying and managing the incident types. And even if we don't have the exact specific information we need right here, we at least know when it was done and we at least know the initiator, so we can follow up with them to see why the change was made. And in most cases, we do have the information that we can use to revert the change if needed. This way we're also adding a layer of accountability, so it's not just the operators that we're checking on, but we're also making sure that the system is being modified and managed appropriately as well. This concludes our training series on mission control. If you need more information on the configuration and installation of mission control, please take a look at the previous 3 parts of this video series. Thank you for watching.